All right, I have a very, very, very strict agenda today. Very strict agenda. And I've got to go through a list quickly so that we don't forget anything.
Got it. We're ready.
Talk about
Nobody talk.
We're going to talk about real estate. I'm just going to hit the high points. I don't want to foreshadow too much. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about Ben Lee. We're going to talk about money laundering and cockfighting. And Josh, you know how much I love you, right?
Yeah, I don't like how this is being set up.
We're going to start off the podcast by me asking you why you decided to wear your kid clothes today and not wear pants like a grown man.
Well, let me explain this to you. Because there are men who hunt and there are men who have real jobs and they take people fishing. This is my work uniform. This is not kid clothes. This is my work uniform. And you're lucky I don't have sandals on, flip-flops on.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
That's my work uniform.
Have that.
So
you look good. You look good.
I know I look good. I don't
know that you've ever wore
that.
shorts in a render.
I've worn shorts on a render hundreds of times.
No, you haven't.
We're going back. After this, guys, we're going to sit down and we're going to watch every render we've ever done.
Giannis Putelis thinks there's something wrong with me because I do not wear shorts. When I go to the gym and run...
Giannis Putelis wears shorts all the time.
I know. Giannis, usually when he's around me for more than a couple days and I don't wear shorts, he's trying to like psychoanalyze me. It's like, Clay, tell me about your childhood. And I tell him the story.
What do you wear at the gym?
I tell him the story about when I was at the bow shop in Mena, Arkansas. Mm-hmm. I remember the man's name. I could tell you his name. He's probably still alive, so I won't. And I remember there was a picture of me on the wall with a bow. I had won a bow tournament. And he said, "Who's the chubby little kid in the short pants?"
Are you
Never forgot it.
Is that what Giannis was able to like dig out of you over time?
Actually, I don't know if I told Giannis that. But I found it to be pretty good advice for life. So you look good, Josh. Thank you. Hey,
I took a buddy fishing recently. And this guy is like a cowboy. I mean, he's a real cowboy. And I was like, okay, let's go fishing. And I go to pick him up, and he comes out in his Wranglers and his cowboy boots and his button-up shirt. And, I mean, he was ready to – I'm surprised he didn't have spurs on. But, we went fishing, and he's in his pressed Wranglers and cowboy boots.
I like it. So Josh is a trout fishing guide.
Oh.
So if you need to go trout fishing in Arkansas, Josh is your man.
I'll be honest, when I first met you, that's what I thought. I was like, he gives off that kind of guy.
The guy's got his work uniform on, didn't you?
Yeah. So we have two guests with us today. We've been trying to do this for a while. This is Jacob Meyers, and this is Andrew Maxwell.
Yes, sir.
From Alabama. And so you guys are podcasters, Southern Outdoorsman Podcast.
Yeah, it's been a long, crazy journey. It's been fun. Glad to finally be here. We have talked about this for a while.
We have.
Yeah. Hey, just a quick note on the shorts. Jacob almost wore shorts and flip-flops this morning.
Oh, it would have been
he saw me putting on these jeans, and he's like, "You're wearing jeans?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a grown-up."
Hey,
Good.
So he put those on.
I just got back from fishing in Venice, and we were tuna fishing for a couple days, and I'm like, that's the first time I've worn flip-flops in years. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of feeling it. And anyways, I'm like, probably I shouldn't wear that today. Plus, I'd be freezing.
You would have had an advocate, man.
Josh, if I would have known you were on my side, I might would have done it.
Yeah.
Well, it is comfortable, but it's just...
What do you wear to the gym?
I do wear shorts at the gym when I go.
You're going to have like paparazzi now trying to get pictures of you in shorts.
Yeah. Well, just functional. That's what it's got to be.
That makes me
well,
think of
we're gonna talk about what you guys do, but I've got to go through my list. We got to talk about real estate. I want to tell y'all a story. I heard this yesterday. Tell me if you've ever heard anything like this. This is not like an internet story. This happened to my friends. Like, I know the people this happened to. And I actually heard the story from their daughter. So, like, the story happened just like this. There was a piece of landlocked property in a state that borders Arkansas. Piece of landlocked hunting property that's been in this family for several generations. No really bad access, no houses. It was just a hunting property. Guys had trail cameras out there. There's a group of the family that had trail cameras. They randomly in May, they still had batteries in their trail cameras from deer season. And one of the family members who lived out of state just decided to check his cellular cam. Pulls it up and sees a truck drive past the gate. Bear, we go holler at that dog.
Yep.
Give him a good one. We're leaving this in. This is just part of life. You tell a lot about a man by the way he hollers at his dog. He sees a truck drive by and he texts his relative and says, "Hey, I like your new truck." And the guy goes, "My new truck? What are you talking about?" And he said, "A white truck just drove by, yada, yada." Well, they don't think much about it. They go out there and put a padlock on the gate or something. And 2 days later, 2 trucks drive by. And they get the license plate. And they call the sheriff. And they say, "Who is this person? They're trespassing on our land." The sheriff runs the plate. And it's a local realtor who's in on this land. And he goes, what are y'all doing in there?" And the realtor goes, it's a small town. They kind of knew each other, you know. And the realtor goes, "Sheriff, that land is being sold and we close in 5 hours." And the sheriff calls the family and goes, "Is your land for sale?" And the guy goes, "No, the land is not for sale. What are you talking about?" And they say, "Mark, whoever this is a good realtor. They're going to a closing in 5 hours on that, 160 acres or something." And it is a scam where people from somewhere find like obscure land with nobody living on it that has tax records that, somehow they're able to be like, nobody's paying attention to this land. It's been in the family for generations. That's one thing where like they just think like people have forgotten or people have moved off. Like if it changed hands 3 years ago, somebody's paying attention. And they forge all the documents, put it up for sale on out-of-state websites. So it wasn't for sale in the state that it was in. And some family from Colorado was going to buy the land and move there and build a house.
That's crazy.
Dang.
So I've heard that on a podcast and on social media that's happening right now. So that's really interesting that you just had that story.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I haven't personally heard of anybody that had it happen to them, but that's insane.
How do I get in on this?
That brings up money laundering. I was kidding. That is on the list, but
that's crazy.
It truly is, and they were able to stop the closing, obviously, but they were told that if it had gone through and the money was like completely lost, that they probably would have had to have fought like in court. It would have been a massive ordeal between the people that bought the land. Like it seems to me like it'd be like, well, you just flushed your money down the toilet. Like this is our land. Mm-hmm. But it would have been harder than that, which would have just been crazy.
The realtor wasn't in on it.
No, that's my understanding.
So who's benefiting? Like how is that money getting back to the people that are?
Well,
they're the seller.
The seller, the crooked seller.
Interesting.
Would just get the money, and then I'm sure they got some elaborate plan to make it disappear.
Wow, dude. That's crazy.
What a nightmare for the people that were trying to buy it, too. Because what if you bought that land, and then someone shows up, and they're like, no.
Well, they're the people that would lose. Because they're the ones that would have all the money would be gone. So, anyway, I thought that was an astonishing story. Just crazy. But, yeah, I thought about, I can't imagine a human that could live with that kind of. We all know there's crooks and thieves in the world, but like you think about some guy just like you pass in Walmart that you don't know, that would have stolen $250,000 from somebody, just literally stole it from them. Somebody. It wasn't like some overseas deal. It was somebody from here that really knew the system.
Nobody's stealing $250,000 from me. I can tell you that, because I ain't got $250,000.
Well, okay, that's part one. This is part two. Are you guys familiar with Ben Lee?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Y'all would be from Alabama.
oh yeah, very familiar.
What's Ben Lee's reputation in Alabama?
Everybody who's like a dyed-in-the-wool turkey hunter knows like all the Ben Lee stories.
Yeah.
And he's like an icon in Alabama. Almost every single person we interviewed in Alabama this year about turkey hunting brought up Ben Rogers Lee. All of them. And then we found out that his son is still living and I think still selling some of his turkey calls. And so we're like, we ought to track him down.
Really?
And get him on the show. But yeah, he's huge.
Yeah. Is his reputation good?
Long pause.
Yeah, I mean, with the turkey hunters, yeah. I don't know, with some of the maybe state officials and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And like, we know some guys who hunted a lot with Ben Lee and did a lot of seminars with him. And he said none of the stories he ever told supposedly were true, but he liked to
Embellish.
move a lot of stuff around.
Yeah, like he'd be doing seminars, and like one of his like jokes he would do in his seminars would be like, the best turkey sign is a no trespassing sign or a posted sign. And like there's a story about him saying that, and the director of wildlife and freshwater was sitting in the audience. He just got up and walked out, So there's a lot of stories like that.
Yeah.
Or having spray paint tennis shoes, wear some white Nikes or white New Balances and spray paint them green just so you could run if, that landowner finds out you're on the property. Stuff like that were some of the stories.
Yeah. He was pretty rough around the edges.
So yeah, apparently the turkey poaching culture goes way back in the Southeast, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we did an episode a couple episodes back. It was called Confessions of a Former Outlaw. So we interviewed this guy who had hunted with Ben Lee and had spent quite a bit of time with him. And our guy was a former outlaw, had a real shift in his life, and that was kind of the story. But he started talking about Ben Lee. And somebody, well...
Aaron Mansfield.
Where is he from?
Probably
Alabama.
From Alabama, yeah.
Aaron Mansfield from Alabama, just a listener, sent me, this is a Ben Lee box call, which these are hard to come by. And it's signed by
That one
Ben
apparently
Lee.
belonged to Ben Lee. Like that was one of his calls, and he gave it away.
Wow.
What? He gave it to his neighbor.
The dude just sent it to me, but sounds good. I mean, I didn't chalk it. I just like picked it up, and it actually sounds really good. And it's called a twin hen because I think the other side sounds quite a bit different.
He also you guys need to check him out. It's APM Woodworks.
Yeah, he made us 2 nets actually. I was about to say he's from Georgia.
That's right.
I didn't know if we were talking about the same person, but yeah.
He makes these beautiful hand nets, man, all custom made with inlay for the fishermen in the group. So
yeah, he's a great guy. We met him at a trade show, and he sent us a couple of those
looking forward to meeting
nets.
him.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man.
Okay.
So he made us some nets, and I feel bad because we don't have trout in Alabama really.
I used it on some crappie.
I was gonna say,
you can send them to me. If
I feel bad about using them crappie fishing because he's got a trout inlaid in mine, and I'm like, dude, I feel terrible using this for a different species.
Yeah, very talented.
Yeah,
those nets are
beautiful
crazy.
stuff.
What else is on my list? I've lost the list.
You lost the list?
The list is
How?
lost.
Cockfighting.
Well, okay. It's just come up a lot lately. And
You want to go in on some?
I would like to have fighting roosters. I don't want to gamble. I don't want to fight them.
You just want to have them?
They're beautiful, beautiful animals. And I could take you about any direction from right here. It's probably is it the same way in Alabama where you'll see people that are raising fighting chickens?
Oh yeah.
I got some trailer parks in Alabama I could take you to if you want some.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to fight. I don't want people to be confused. Like, people could hear me talking about outlaws and think Clay's an outlaw. I'm not perfect, but I'm the furthest thing from an outlaw. You might think of my interest in cockfighting as like, oh, Clay wants to cockfight. Nope, I don't. I just think that I think it's an interesting sport, and it's just been coming up a lot. So I'm working on a potential episode about about cockfighting.
Oh, I'd listen to that.
Because there's some. I mean, it's terrible. Like I'm not trying to say that it's good, but
are we gonna have like voices like the voice changing thing like they do on these exposés?
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
yeah,
John Doe.
yeah.
Wait, so what's so different about it? They look different? Are
They're
just wandered around?
just big pretty roosters.
Okay.
You know.
Are they like aggressive to people? You get you like a home defense chicken?
That's
pretty much
good.
I think they're pretty much aggressive to anything.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
There used to be a turkey here on this property that was pretty aggressive.
We've had some mean fowl on this place.
I mean, if you showed any kind of weakness at all, that Tom would come and just attack you. If you were a female, it was coming after you.
So we had it was a wild turkey. It was we didn't like gather it from the wild, but it was bought as an eastern wild turkey. It was tame. We started out with 7, and we ended up with like 3. And so it was a gang of jakes that were running around our house free. We just let them run free. And there was a gentleman that came here quite often, dear friend of ours, that had a stroke and limped really bad.
If you twisted your ankle.
And man, when he would get out of the car, like a normal person get out of the car, turkey doesn't do anything. When it saw that guy limping, they would just come over there and stretch.
Oh my God.
They would attack him.
That's terrible.
And then when Misty's grandmother would come over here, little white-haired lady, kind of slow. When little kids would come over here, if a little kid would get out of the car and run out in front to the house before their parents, they'd be on people's cars when they left. They like come in the house and they come back out
smoking cigarettes.
Turkeys are on their car, like scratching up the paint. We're like, hey, we're really sorry about the turkeys. Anyway, they ended up getting killed by our neighbors. Actually shot them thinking they were wild turkeys, for real, like half a mile from here. It was a different era. But so our guests, you guys both from Alabama. Mm-hmm. Did you grow up in Alabama, Jacob?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I've lived all over the place, but from Alabama, yes.
What's your tell me about your, well, first of all, y'all are full-time podcasting?
Yep.
Both of you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's been a cool journey. It was never a goal. First off, never a goal. It just kind of happened. So it was like the decision of, there was one point where we're like, either we need to change something with the podcast, or we might not be able to continue the podcast because of how much time it was taking with our careers.
Yeah.
And I made the decision like 5 years ago. I drew an Iowa late season muzzleloader tag, and ended up losing my PTO time at work. Some stuff had happened. And clocking in, clocking out stuff. Anyways, so
Jacob didn't clock in or clock out for 7 months.
I was there, but I was present, and I was working at my career. I was 100% commission, so I was there making.
What'd
sales.
you do?
So I was working in the.
I'm going to ask you the same question,
Okay,
Andrew.
so I sold pre-arrangements for funeral arrangements.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I did for a handful of years. Wow. And anyways, so I was there doing what I needed to do, but anyways, just wasn't going through the whole clock in, clock out system. I lost my PTO time. So I drew that tag, and it was getting to like second week in November, and the hunt started in December. And I'm like, I'm not going. And I talked to Andrew. I was like, hey, man, talking some financials with the podcast. And I thought I had talked to you previously, Andrew, about like maybe leaving. And all of a sudden, I was like, I just got to go. Like, if it doesn't work out, I had money saved. If it doesn't work out, I'll just go back into that career path or get back into sales. I love sales. And I ended up going out there, killing a buck, spent like 12 days out there, killed a buck, came back, and never looked back. And that was 20.
So you quit before you left?
Yeah, I quit. Yeah, correct.
Quit the funeral home.
Quit the funeral home. And never been back. Been doing the podcast for the last 5.5 years.
Are you okay talking about your career in the funeral industry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because that's way more interesting than anything that's happened yet. Andrew, help me here.
I got details to add to this.
Yeah.
So
Well,
go ahead.
I've always when I've been to funerals and seen people there, I've always wondered, how did you get here? Like, how did you choose this? How did you get in the funeral industry?
So I was doing previously before that I was in medical sales, and I'd lived in
You
Nashville.
just went to the dark side.
Yeah, well. I'm gonna let you run with
One
it.
way. I've never looked at it that way.
So
That's a good
I
point.
mean, it's like we're either going to help people live or we're going to help them when they're dead.
that's okay. Well, that's one way to look at it. Okay. So I was doing that I did that for a couple of years. I was living in Nashville, then got transferred to Atlanta, Georgia, and then moved back to Birmingham. When I got back to Birmingham, wasn't working for the company anymore, and I was trying to find something else sales wise, and it just came across like it was a friend of a friend was talking about it, and I'm like, because you had to be a licensed insurance agent in order, because how the policies are held, it's held through a whole life policy.
Really?
So that's how the funding goes into the account, so that when you pass away, everything's taken care of. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I was thinking about doing insurance anyways, so I went and applied, did an interview, and they're like, yeah, you're hired. Started talking to people, and one thing I liked about it more so than when I was doing the medical industry, in the medical space, I was talking to imaging directors at hospitals and stuff, and it wasn't very personable. It was very much bottom line, who can get me a certain piece of equipment at a certain price, and that was it. When I was in the funeral side of everything, it was very much like you built relationships with everybody you were working with.
I can see that.
And help them through hard times and make sure everything was taken care of. I was not. Andrew keeps joking I was a grave digger, which I was not. Never touched that. Never touched
the shovel.
bodies, anything like that. I was always working with the spouses and everything else, and family members. But I really enjoyed it. But I did that for a handful of years. So I mean, I don't know what all you want to get into.
No, that you answered my question, and I knew there would be a real answer. But that I like it that you actually saw it as you were helping people that were in a difficult time in the relationship. Yeah, because I'm amazed at. I mean, there's something about human death that's close to you that alters your life. I mean, that's an obvious statement, like people dying is significant in your life. But even beyond that, like I like for my kids to go with me to funerals. I think sometimes people are like, I'll protect the kids from that. We're going to go. I've always been like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's just like a unique moment in people's lives. So interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, it was one of those things like getting dealt with so many hard situations with, all kinds of stuff. Children passing away, very elderly people passing away, and everybody in between.
Yeah.
And working with families, it was tough to work in that environment, but it was something that at the end of the day, making sure that just the family was taken care of and everything about the arrangements were situated in a way that gave them more peace of mind was fulfilling on that. But it was a lot. But it was one of those things. So I was doing that, and the problem with that career path, not a problem, but one aspect of it was you were working typically 6 days a week, and then every other week you would work 13 days straight. You'd work a whole weekend and the whole following week as well. So it did not lend me very much time at all. I think the couple years I was there, 3 years I was there, I probably hunted a total of maybe 8 to 10 times a whole deer season. And we have a very long deer season in Alabama. And after a while, it got to the point where it's hard for me to do the podcast. Like I was living my life through the podcast, interviewing these guys. I got to hunt all the time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting to be able to do that. And finally, with the Iowa tag got me, and we're like, okay, I'm bouncing. And
So what year was that?
that was 2020. It was 2020.
Maybe.
I think it was 2020.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was 2020. That's when I killed that first deer. It was 2020.
So when did y'all start your podcast?
The Southern Outdoorsman started in October 2017. We were about to go to Wyoming. Me and Jacob were buddies. I think we were both in college at the time. He might have just dropped out of college.
Yeah, I was out of college.
And
He dropped out of college. Oh, that's very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Listen,
he was trying to get me to drop out too. He's like, hey, there's this medical sales thing. You ought to. I used to work at a bow shop in Birmingham, and he came over there, and he was there for like 4 hours talking to me on my shift. He's like, dude, you need to drop out and do this. I didn't do it. But anyways, yeah. What was the question? I forgot.
when we start the podcast.
Oh, yeah. It was October 2017, started the website, and I was doing it for like a blog because I wanted to get into outdoor riding. 2017. And I was like, I don't know, 18 or 19. I had like no business writing for like a Field and Stream type magazine, but I was writing for local magazines at home.
All right.
And I was like, well, I just need something where I can put stuff out there and like publish my own stuff and get reps and kind of build a portfolio. So I started that over the next couple of months, and people were like, hey, y'all ought to do a podcast. Because we all liked, Wired to Hunt and MeatEater and people like that. We listened to those. But there was nothing for the Southeast. And so
Yeah.
we're like, we ought to start something. And I approached Jacob about it, and he was like, absolutely not. Not interested.
Nope.
And after a couple months, I wore him down, and in February 2018, we started the actual podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, $50 microphone from Amazon.
Man, I remember when y'all started because your name stood out to me because at the time there was so little media, podcast media specifically coming out of the Southeast.
Yeah.
For real, wasn't it? I mean, am I right?
Oh, yeah. No, that's why we started it. I mean,
Yeah.
because we wanted something. Like I mentioned Wired to Hunt. I enjoyed his show a lot, and he did a great job with it. But he was talking to so many guys in like Iowa,
Yeah, it's
Michigan,
kind of Midwestern.
Yeah, and they're talking
West.
about cornfields. I'm like, I don't have a cornfield within 50 miles of my house. It's pine farms. It's all pine plantations. So we just tried to go create what we wished was already there. Is essentially what we did.
Yeah. Do you guys ever think about so they'll look back in history at some point, should the earth persist, and they'll say, wow, podcasts really blew up right there. Because they have. They're everybody's got a podcast. Like it's like this flooded market. What service? I mean, and I know it's like you could say, well, we relay information, but have you ever thought about like on a broader scale the impacts of podcasts? Like what is it? What will they say about us at some point?
Well, it depends, but like the one thing about podcasts is a way to be able to get out information very, very quickly to the masses, as long as the masses find that show, no matter what the conversation is. I get a lot of my news from some of the different podcasts as to how quick they can turn stuff around.
Yeah.
And some of the hosts I listen to, they don't really have a certain lean to it. They just kind of tell you how it is, which is really nice. But even in the outdoor space, you're able to get so much information out from hopefully reputable individuals and people that have a lot of experience that you can share that with other people and help shorten learning curves. And that's really what we do. We focus very much on the educational side of everything. But I mean, like you said, a couple hundred years from now or whenever they start talking about, podcast is still a thing or a conversation, or maybe they change to a different name. It would be interesting to kind of see how everything's progressed, because the one thing we've noticed in the last 3 to 4 years is that the movement towards video podcasts, this is not just audio. And people are now, they're not, they don't have a TV. They're not subscribed to cable TV or anything like that. They're watching on YouTube. They just have YouTube at the house, and they're either listening to podcasts or they're watching stuff on YouTube. And now with podcasts being on YouTube, people can watch at the house. And that's the thing that's really blowing us away, is how many people are actually watching the show, not just listening to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also with us specifically, we try to focus a lot on just woodsmanship and I don't know, some people call it the old-fashioned way of hunting with a lot of people. We try to interview a lot of older people for that exact reason, like 50 plus, especially like really older people. Like we've had a couple 80-year-old guys on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I like to think that one day people will look back at that and it's kind of like an archive of what was hunting like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, especially now with how technology is. I mean, who knows what it's going to look like in 20, 30 years. And so I feel like we're kind of preserving that a little bit.
Yeah. There's never been access to this type of information before in society. Like that's to me what's interesting about podcasts. I don't take any like pride in being a podcaster. Like I don't like to. I'm not a podcaster. Like I don't. To me, that's like being a used car salesman almost. Like I don't. Yeah. But the access to information and the informality of human conversation being recorded is unprecedented. I mean, like all media from all time has been curated. Like I mean, think about the 1960s. You could not have consumed media that wasn't planned, intentional. I mean, whether it was a game show or a radio show or but like informal human communication, like there's something to it that's significant.
Well, that and also not having a time constraint put to it. Like if it's on television, depending on what the show is, might be a quick little interview with somebody for 8 minutes and then they're off to the next subject.
Yeah.
on podcasts, I mean, you can run as long as you want. We don't do this anymore, but there was times back in the day we've had multiple 5-hour-long podcasts.
Oh my Lord!
And it was sit-down interviews,
Marathon.
I mean, and looking back at it, I'm like, we were insane. Okay,
I wonder how many people actually got to the end of
I don't know, but it's there for them if they want to go check it out.
5 hours.
But see, a lot of the stuff we did with the podcast was very much for me and Andrew, as in like we were curious talking to these people and curious getting some questions answered and learning more about the guests.
Right.
And it was never so much like, oh, what would do good with the audience? It's very much like, what would we like to hear and what are we interested in? If the audience mimics that, then great. If they don't, that's perfectly fine too.
Yeah, they don't have to
And
listen.
that's how we've ran it for the last 8.5 years. Now, we don't do the 5-hour podcast anymore, but we have done that in the past.
So, Andrew, how'd you get? You kind of told us a little bit how you got into us, but what obscure careers have you had in your life?
I mean, in college, I worked at that bow shop. I did night shift, Home Depot.
What'd you go to college for?
I was trying to go for forestry. Oh, I got a good story for you about that, actually. I was going to go to Auburn for forestry, and I went to a community college in Birmingham to get all my core class out of the way because it's cheaper and I could live at home. And so I was doing that, and for forestry at Auburn, you have to do a summer practicum before you go into your junior and senior year. So you go, and it's kind of like the like forestry boot camp or whatever. And it was my last semester before I was supposed to go to practicum. And I had this music appreciation class that I had to, go do because they make you do that. And it was in turkey season. And I thought the final was on Thursday. And so on Tuesday, I went turkey hunting. And then I showed up Thursday, and there was nobody there, and I missed my final. And so I failed. And that lowered my GPA, and I couldn't get into forestry school. So, yeah. And then I had to spend a year like taking throwaway classes to get my GPA back up.
Let me stop you right there. Who in your life did you have to tell that story to, and they were real disappointed in you?
My mom. She was thrilled. She was just thrilled. So then when I got to Auburn, they just introduced a new program called Geospatial and Environmental Informatics. Makes me sound smarter than I really am. But it's just GIS, maps, data in like with forestry and ecology. So I was like, well, I like maps. I'll do that. And I didn't have to go to the summer practicum, so I could get back into the School of Forestry earlier. So I went to the School of Forestry and did that. And then when I graduated, I was trying to go into some kind of wildlife or forestry related field. And I ended up getting a job doing, like Call Before You Dig, 811.
Okay.
I was doing that in Alabama, and I was the GIS guy for the 811.
Both these guys are into digging.
So yeah, I managed a database. I sat behind a computer. For
How long did you do that?
Like 4.5 years. When I got out of college, I started doing that. And that was when the podcast was starting to get serious. I graduated college in 2020. And right after I graduated is when Jacob quit his job and started doing the podcast full time. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stay at this job until I can go full time. And so that's what I did. And I went full time last year. It took me a little longer.
So you were in full time. You were full time first.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple years before.
I was thinking it was the other way.
Yeah. No. He went full time first. He's old single Pringle man.
I saved money, and I was living dirt poor for a while.
Yeah.
That's one thing I was going to say. Jacob
Yeah.
didn't like, not to get into his finances or anything, but he took a
How much money do you have?
Dude, he took a gigantic pay cut. I don't want to say what he made the first 2 years, but it was not a lot.
Yeah, because
I don't even know how he lived on it.
Yeah, I'd saved considerably at that last job, but we
were making money with the podcast, but very not enough money for I didn't think either one of us could quit, but then he just did. I was like, we'll figure it out.
Hey, peanut butter and jelly
That's
sandwich
awesome,
to get
man.
you far, man.
Yeah, that's right.
And some deer meat. So
yeah,
Well, I admire you for that, man. I mean, it some people talk about people that are in the outdoor industry full time, and there's sacrifices. I mean, I'm sure there's been good stuff that's happened to y'all that wasn't your fault. I mean, something just good happened on its own. I know that's been the way for me. I can't take credit for being able to do what I'm passionate about, but there are conscious sacrifices that you made that got you where you're at today.
Well, and that's like when we've had conversations with Cuz Strickland. We were talking to him about that, and he's like, everybody that's in the space, if they started taking it seriously, they had to make some kind of sacrifice like that. It's a leap of faith. 'Cause you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, And I had the confidence. I'm like, if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing beforehand, and I was good at it, and just get back into that space. But it was one of those things that once you got into it and you started making more content, I'm not saying everybody try to go out and be a content producer or creator, because I don't even think of it that way. I look at like we're trying to add value now to people's lives and help shorten learning curves. That's like really what we're trying to do, and also telling stories and adding some entertainment mixed into it. But I mean, every time we do this, like we're traveling right now for 9 days, interviewing a bunch of people. It doesn't really feel like work. I mean, it's a lot of work, especially behind the scenes and the editing, the producing, and all that kind of stuff. But we enjoy it. I mean, to the utmost degree. And Andrew, I'm a little bit different. So I'm not married, don't have kids. Andrew's got a kid, a 2-year-old daughter. And he's been married now for, I don't want to put you on the spot because Tiffany might listen to this episode.
Like 6 years, something like that.
But
right around 6 years.
That's good. That's good.
You know, so he was really trying to work with her on making sure that we can get everything taken care of so that he could go full time. And then she was actually just now able to quit her job to be a full time stay at home mom, which has been awesome.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, man. American dream, baby.
That's great.
Yep.
Now, y'all been doing this for 8 years together. Y'all have navigated partnership. I don't really know. I don't know this, but I know this. How do y'all? Usually partnerships don't work out. Usually, if like two people go in the media together as like, I want to say equals. Usually that breaks up. How have y'all managed?
Anything with more than one head?
Is there any is there any mediation? The reason I bring it up is there any mediation that you need me and Josh to do between you guys?
We're good at this.
Jacob, I'm going to have you go first. Tell us the thing you hate most about Andrew. I'm kidding. No, it's a serious question. How do y'all manage just like being partners?
So we've heard that from multiple other people in the space that have done the same thing. And they're like, dude, it never worked out. A lot of it, I think, comes down to personality types. And also, are both of you bought in to the same level? Because if one's real casual and one's trying to take it real serious, it's not going to work.
Right.
If both are super serious to the point that they want to do it their own way, it's not going to work. The thing about me and Andrew is it's a mix of like we take this very, very seriously, but also like we're both very humble and we'll listen to each other. Like Andrew has plenty of ideas. I'm like, that's fine. Like, dude, it don't have to be my way, and same thing vice versa. So I think you have to have that in order to make it, because that is true. I mean, Andrew's wife jokes with us all the time that like it's almost like me and him are in a marriage, because like we spend so much time together and working together that like just like a marriage, like you're going to have arguments and stuff, but you got to be able to work past it. And same thing with a business partner that you're working a ton with.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. It's like a marriage, and it's just like sometimes like I slack and he has to pull the weight. Sometimes he slacks and I have to pull the weight, and you just have to be willing to do that with somebody. And be forgiving about it, like whenever the other person messes up or whatever. Because I mean, 8 years, I mean, we've had our share of disagreements and stuff, but
I got a good story on that.
Oh God!
So the second time I went to Iowa, okay, I went up there. Anyways, so
this was it.
I was there for 14 days, okay, and completely neglected everything I had to do for the podcast. And Andrew called me a couple times, and he was livid. I'm talking about upset, man. And because I'm like, I was so focused on killing a big buck. And I was hunting with my uncle, and we were driving. I mean, we were hunting a bunch of the evening. We were scouting bird hunting. I got a bird dog. We were pheasant hunting, quail hunting in the mornings, and the deer hunting in the afternoons, late season. And when I got back, me and Andrew had a conversation with me, because he's like, dude, you cannot do that. Like, that is not going to fly. Like, we can't do this because responsibilities and everything else like that. And really, you got to have like a humbleness of like not being super selfish that, I'm full time, now I can go hunt all the time, because that's not the case.
Yeah.
Like there's other stuff that has to get done before you ever get in the woods. So yeah, that was a good lesson for me.
How did you take the rebuke? Did you get mad at him?
No, not at all, because I'm like, it's rightfully so. I mean, dude, if you did that to me, I'd be upset too, but I was so hyper focused on hunts like that. That just, man, he just got in the way.
That's good.
That is
conflict.
That's the key right there, because that's one thing about him. Like, he's always been like that, and I try to be like that as much as I can, but like if you mess up, just own up to it. Yeah. And that'll get you far. Whatever you're doing.
Yeah, leave your ego at the door.
Yeah. Man, that's great. That's like high level humanness for real. Just being able to get along with people, and surprisingly, it's difficult for a lot of people. I mean, it's.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah, you sure are looking.
That's the reason I brought these two guys here.
Oh, so we need to mediate between you
guys.
There we go. Exactly.
Okay.
Thanks for asking. Okay, Josh.
One thing I wanted to bring up, just because I thought you'd find it a little interesting. So I lived in Arkansas for 4 years. I went to Subiaco Academy.
That's right.
Oh, really?
Private school up here in Northwest Arkansas. And at the time, we had a hunting program. They don't do this anymore, okay? But we could have firearms at school. I was living in the dormitories.
Those
we
were
had safe.
the good old days, right?
And
there.
we couldn't have center fire rifles, but we had 22s, muzzleloaders, and shotguns. And we would go hunt. The school has a bunch of acreage. We would go hunt all the time. Like, I'd play sports, but if I didn't have practice or something, we were going hunting. I got in so much trouble. So one day, I was going to tell you this story. So
This is great.
It's a Benedictine monastery. So there's monks like on campus. Like, they have a monastery there. And one of the monks who was overseeing the hunting program, he came to me one day and he's like, "Hey, y'all want to go rabbit hunting?" I'm like, "Yeah." And we had gone rabbit hunting with him and some other guys down the river with some beagles. He's like, "Well, we got a bunch of rabbits around the barns on the property." He's like, "Just get your shotgun, get your buddy Marshall, go down there, go hunt." I'm like, "Cool." So we go down there.
With the monk.
No, he left. No, we'd go unsupervised.
Okay.
Like, he'd go check. We'd check out the shotguns, whatever, get ammo, and walk down to the barns. And the barns are close to campus. Like, barns are like maybe 300, 400 yards from campus. We go down there, and there's just cottontail rabbits everywhere. And we're just shooting them, and like they weren't running or nothing. Like, we'd shoot them, and then
Ground sliding them with a 12 gauge.
yeah, like it was like you just walked her. Anyways, so we got like 6 or 8 of them. Started going around the hill, and the school's up on a big hill. We started going around the hill, kind of following rabbits. We get all the way to like a cemetery right there, and killing some rabbits. And at one time, I was like, we are very close to school buildings, but it's like, it's okay. Like, Brother Agent said we'd come down here. We ended up going back, cleaning the rabbits on one of the park benches on campus. Took the shotguns back, put the shotguns away, but started cleaning rabbits. We had a lunch lady that would cook us wild game. So
Wow.
They won't do that anymore either.
Wow.
But like
Thanks to you.
Probably.
yeah, well, so we'd run trot lines there. They had a bunch of ponds that we'd run trot lines on. We'd fillet fish and we'd bring them back, and the lunch ladies would cook it for me and my buddies.
That is cool.
But the next day I go to class, and the principal comes in, and me and him were pretty cool. Like, I'd go sit in his office, talk to him a good bit. And he came in. He's like, "Hey, Jacob, I need you to come to the office real quick." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I went to the office. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "Well, tell me about this rabbit hunt." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, I got reports that you were shooting rabbits on campus yesterday." And I'm like, "Well, brother," I kind of went to like, "Brother Adrian told me to do it." I'm like a 15, 16-year-old kid at the time. And he's like, "Yeah, you can't do that." And I lost my hunting privileges for the rest of the year. This was like, I think small game rabbit season opened somewhere time in October, November, something like that. And lost the hunting privileges for the rest of the year. And got Saturday detention for it for, I think, a month. Me and Marshall both. But anyways, got in a bunch of trouble. And I was like, come to find out, I learned this later. There was another monk on campus that, I don't want to say his name, but anyways, he was going out there and feeding the rabbits.
Oh.
Brother Adrian, which I'll mention his name. He's a fun guy, older guy. Actually, he was old when I was there, and he's still kicking. Great guy. I saw him a year ago. They weren't getting along, I guess, a whole bunch.
Oh, no way.
So we went down there and shot some rabbits that he didn't want rabbits around the barns and stuff like that. But it was
He
one
put
of
a hit out on his fellow monks' rabbits.
But that's why they were just standing there.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They were like, "Oh, you're going to come feed me."
Oh, no.
We just didn't realize he was going to feed him a shot.
Yeah, some number 7 shot. I mean, yeah, exactly. Wow. But yeah, we hunted a bunch out there. Had bows. I had kept my bow and my climber underneath my bed in my dormitory, and all my camo and stuff under there. Wow. It was a fun time.
Wow. Subiaco.
Yep.
We played Subiaco.
Yeah, we played Mina a bunch.
Yeah.
I broke my. Actually, no, it wasn't Mina. Oh, it wasn't Mina. I broke my arm playing football.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy, man.
Good times.
Crazy. That's a good story. So you guys were the people that introduced me to Pablo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What an incredible guy.
Oh, I love Pablo.
Now, how did y'all meet Pablo?
Pablo, kind of like he was talking about, he got to know all those good deer hunters up where he lives, like Tony Meyers, Michael Perry, Daniel Williams, Jamie McKay. These are like local legends in Alabama. I mean, just killers. And they all kind of live in the same area. Well, those are a lot of the guys that we interview. And we had some mutual friends that also knew him. And we kind of knew of Pablo. And then he came to me at the World Deer Expo, like, I guess it was 3 years ago now. That's where I actually met him. And I talked to him for 10 minutes. I mean, he had me in tears. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I was like, we got to do a podcast with you. And then late last year, we finally made it happen. And Yeah, it was just, man, he's so fun. We're gonna take him on a deer trip this year somewhere.
Oh,
we got to get him in a deer camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's one of those guys that he's so humble because of like where he came from, the opportunities, that when he came to the States, he's like, he wanted to get into it and it was like just still as a sponge soaking up information. And he's fun to be around because he's super positive. No matter how bad the situation is, super positive.
Yeah.
Like our buddy Daniel Williams, who did the episode with us, Pablo, they hunt a bunch together. And they just telling all these different stories of all these close calls. Not like close calls killing animals, but close calls like flipping kayaks over an alligator-infested river and like getting bit by snakes and all kinds of stuff. That, I mean, Pablo, he's such an interesting guy that first off, when we did the episode with him, a lot of people were like, where is he from? Because his accent. They're like, is he Cajun? Is he from like South Louisiana? I'm like, no, not at all, man. But yeah, just like a guy like that, it's nice to meet somebody who's, you know, not a younger guy by any means, but is someone who's still so hungry for information and is willing to go out there and grind and go like his first couple of years hunting, never even saw a deer.
Yeah.
And like, but still kept going. And it's like, man, it's amazing to hear those stories.
he's so respectful that he earns other people's respect. I mean, like we know guys who've taken him out in the woods scouting, like just trying to show him stuff. And they'll be like, hey, drop a pin on this. Like, you can come back here. And, like, Pablo, like, doesn't even have his phone or something. He's like, I'm not going to steal your spot or anything.
Yeah.
Like, just very respect. Like, he does everything the right way, and people just appreciate that. And so, like, everyone loves Pablo.
Yeah. Well, he was, it was cool having him on this podcast. So, yeah.
He was so excited, man.
Yeah.
I called him. I was like, guess who was just asking about you?
Yeah.
He was so excited. So, yeah, he's a great guy. I love to see it.
Yeah. Cool. Who, I want to ask both of you a question. Who and all the people you've interviewed would be like, people ask me this all the time, so it's fair game. Favorite interview you've ever done?
I think I'm going to take the easy one and just say it's got to be episode 116 with Glenn Solomon.
Glenn Solomon.
Glenn Solomon. He's a gentleman from South Georgia. And he was one of the guys that kind of showed us what direction we should go in. And it was episode 116. I always tell people it took us like 100 episodes to figure out how to not suck at it. And when we interviewed him, it just like, it really clicked. And he gave us great information. And we started getting success stories from it. We started having more success. But also, right after we interviewed him, he passed away like 3 weeks after we released the episode. And so it kind of gave us the perspective of like, hey, we got to record these people's stories and everything. And that episode kind of changed the game for us and kind of gave us a direction that we should go.
Was he like really technical in the way he described hunting, or was he a good storyteller, or was he a character?
He's a good old boy character, just South Georgia woodsman. Like, he's not talking about like, you know, all this crazy technical stuff that you hear about in like mobile hunting today. He's like, man, find you a thicket, get up in there, you know, do whatever you got to do, that kind of thing.
The interesting thing about him, he's one of the only guys we ever met in the Southeast who was successful being a bed hunter for bucks on public land and killing the fire out of bucks. Because I think it's two state tags you get in Georgia, and then they have bonus buck hunts on different WMAs where like you can go for that day or that weekend and get an extra buck tag if you kill one. And he'd kill 5 mature bucks in one season in Georgia on like 4 different pieces of public land.
Wow.
And most of them were like bed hunting roughly.
But he's just doing cool stuff. Like he was hunting those longleaf pine savannas where the longleafs aren't super tall yet. And all the grass underneath him is 4 or 5 feet tall. And he was talking about taking a bar stool in there and sitting on top of a bar stool in the middle of that stuff just so he could barely see down into that grass.
Wow.
And killing deer that way.
Wow, that's cool.
It was just like ratcheting a couple
together.
of small pines together so he could get a tree stand on it. You know, it's just cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
And he was also an outdoor writer, so even though he had real country drawl, he was very well spoken.
Yeah.
And his writing style kind of mimicked that. And his family, when he passed away, ended up putting a lot of his stories together that he had written for all these articles into a book form, which was really kind of cool as well.
Yeah, it's called Hunting on the Fly.
Yeah.
Glenn Solomon.
But
cool. Selfishly
selfishly for me, just so it changed my hunting, was a gentleman. He's a gentleman from Alabama. His name's Ron Waters. We call him Coach. He's an old football and baseball coach in the state. He's in his 70s, and he is a public land turkey killing fiend. And I learned a lot from him. He was kind of cut from that old school cloth, 3rd generation turkey hunter. His granddad got killed turkey hunting in 1939.
Yeah.
Had a guy kill him on the National Forest with a shotgun, mistaked him for a turkey. So he's got a ton of family heritage of turkey hunters in the state of Alabama. And his big thing that he really was talking about in the episode with us that was impactful for me is what he calls covert calling. Like, you know, you got all these guys in public land, you know, they kill a lot of birds early in the season, being loud and aggressive, but after a certain point, like, it's not going to work as well. And being a little bit more of a soft caller, being a little more patient can play huge dividends. And I started doing that, and it was unbelievable. Like a light switch had changed for me. So, but yeah, so I'll take a little bit different angle. But we've interviewed so many different guys. It's the problem is we've interviewed so many guys at this point. We're at almost, I think, 700 something episodes now. That it's hard to remember everyone unless we've had them on multiple times. There's some guys we had on, you know, one time 5 years ago. And unless someone brings it up, I kind of forgot about the episode because we have so many.
That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah. So it's been amazing though, because again, one thing, especially when it comes to deer hunting, one thing I've learned after we've interviewed so many guys is there's so many different ways to be successful. There are some guys that are big into scent control. Some guys absolutely don't care about scent control. Some guys are like Mo, hunting rub lines. Some guys like hunting scrapes, and they'll talk like, "Oh, you can't do this one thing because it won't work." And then we interview somebody who's like, "No, that's what I do," and have a lot of success. And that's one thing I like about whitetails. To me, whitetails specifically, it's so much based on your confidence level and experience that molds you to who you are as a deer hunter, and that's how you kill deer. And it's not necessarily like someone else that's out there.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know y'all had that many episodes.
Yeah, man, it's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
That's
I think today we released 692 on the day we're recording this. That came out this morning, so yeah, we're about to hit 700.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great, man.
And it's just one of those things that, like, the journey. One thing I really enjoy is just talking to so many different guys from different parts of the Southeast in the experience level, because there's some similarities between guys, and there's some that, like, their just upbringing is completely different. Like, we interviewed a guy in North Carolina last year, Western North Carolina, who didn't get into deer hunting until he was, I think, 31, and he's like 35. He's killing the fire out of big deer in the mountains, both with a bow and a rifle. And his background was rock climbing and long distance hiking. And he took that endurance athlete perspective into whitetail hunting and had a really good mentor hunting public land, and just took up on it and killing big deer in areas that they're known for big deer, but have very small population size and herd densities. And he's going out there killing big deer every single year. And it's amazing just because you never know who you're going to talk to and what their background is. Because, like, I didn't grow up in a hunting family. Like, my dad specifically never hunted. I got into hunting through my mom's two brothers, and they were big deer hunters, casual turkey hunters, and that's how I kind of get the itch to go hunt. And then when I went to Subiaco, it was, like, full-fledged. Like, I can go run wild and go hunt like crazy. And then college, it was, like, exponentially more because I found out about public land.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Barry, do you have any questions for these guys? Before we talk about the Anzic child?
So what are you guys hunting most? I know you said whitetails, but like, what do you two personally like to hunt?
It depends on what time of year you ask me that.
Yeah.
Because in the spring it's turkeys, in the fall it's deer, but I really would like to kill a bear at some point. So I think I'm going to try that this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's whitetails, man.
Do you guys have a bear season in Alabama?
Not yet. I think we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting close. I've killed a bear, mule deer. I still love whitetails, and I love turkeys. Like, it's one of those things, like, I traveled a little bit this year turkey hunting, and it was an absolute blast. And my biggest thing is I like the adventure of going other places and seeing new scenery, even if it's the same species. Like, we've hunted whitetails in Wyoming, and it was wild because we're out there, and it's like finding whitetails, getting on whitetails, killing whitetails. But we're so far, we're 29 hours from the house, almost 30 hours from the house, but you're still hunting an animal that acts similar, but the habitat is completely different. Mm-hmm. And, like, I love that aspect of just what we have the opportunity here in the United States is you can travel all over the place. If you have a little bit of funds and if you want to sleep in your truck for 7 days, you can do that and have that opportunity. But, yeah, I love whitetails.
Yeah.
I've killed one bear in Arkansas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and killed a bear. My brother was going to school up here at college, and he started running some cameras on one of the pieces of public up here, and he was trying to find deer. And ended up just every camera he had in this one canyon system had bears on it. Like, every day, one of the cameras would have a bear on it. He went out there, killed one with his bow. And then I came up here for the muzzleloader hunt, and opening day of muzzleloader season, seen 2 bear, killed 1, and had an opportunity at a buck. And I'm like, I know that never happens. Like, Clay, your dad told me that as well because I texted him about it. I was talking to Mo about it too, and he's like, that does not happen. So I'm kind of just like, I don't know. I want to get back into bear hunting. The meat was delicious, but it was one of those things that blew me away because I'm like, I wish we had that opportunity in the deep south. But We don't have that currently.
We hunt a little bit of everything too, though. We both have bird dogs.
What kind of bird dog? I mean, like for pheasant or ducks or quail?
He's got a GSP, and I've got a small Munsterlander. And actually, yesterday, my wife picked up our new English setter puppy. So
Really?
Yeah, just got an English setter
Are
yesterday.
you gonna train the English setter to quail hunt?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Do
actually
you have wild quail?
we have some. I actually just joined a hunting club by my house, and it's a timber company, and they've started doing mitigation areas on it, where they're reestablishing some bottomland hardwoods and stuff like that. And I keep jumping quail out there. I've been out there a couple times. I've been jumping them, but we got a lot of woodcock in Alabama. That's our main bird. When you get a good push of them, because they're migratory. When they're here, it's awesome. When they're not there, they're not there.
See, and I'd rather travel with my dog. I've gone to Montana, I've hunted in Iowa, Wisconsin. Wisconsin was fun. Northern Wisconsin hunting grouse,
Yeah, that was
rough
fun.
grouse, and then Eastern Montana was unbelievable. So that's the cool thing is kind of diversifying what we like to do in small game hunting too. It's like that's why it's Southern Outdoorsmen, not Southern deer hunters, Southern turkey hunters. Is like there's so many opportunities to be able to be in the woods and hunt. It's like don't just do one thing.
Yeah.
So
That's cool, man. That's cool. How we doing on time, Josh?
56 minutes.
Oh wow, we hadn't even talked about. We hadn't even talked about the Anzic child.
Yep.
No, so these guys were able to listen to the podcast. So the last, well, it was actually 2 episodes ago, right? That we had the mystery of America's oldest bones, and we had the one filler episode. Not filler, but we had Lake Pickle and T.L. Jones on.
Special render.
And then, so this one is coming out then. But, man, my wife makes fun of me, like ridicules me for how much I talk about this kind of stuff. But, the Ice Age, Paleolithic people who were the first Americans, and now the Anzic child. Pretty fascinating to me. And I love having really qualified guests like Dr. David Meltzer from SMU. I mean, I don't really know the hierarchy of archaeologists and anthropologists in America, but I mean, he's probably at the top of the heap in terms of his specialty, which is the Ice Age, Stone Age, and like who was here and what they were doing and stone points. But he's a fascinating guy and a really good communicator. Just like he's a really good communicator. And so y'all listen to it. What stood out to you? What was the most interesting thing, or what'd you learn? Or
To me-
would you be interested in stuff like that? I mean, like when you listen to it, were you like, this will be cool, or it won't be, or this is boring?
I didn't know really what it was going to get into until the conversation really got started. But to me, the most fascinating thing was the ghost gene in I think it was Southeast Brazil, where they found a gene that connects to or is associated with Australia, but it's not really found anywhere else in Central and North America.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how did that get there? And Andrew's like, maybe those boys did have some boats and some wild boys got together and started paddling.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is I think everybody, especially if you're even if you're not an outdoorsman, you're fascinated with how North America got populated and how just these early humans settled all across the globe and specifically across North, South, and Central America. And it's one of those things that's like, there's so many questions because it's so old. And Andrew made the comment about like the Anzic child when they found it in the 60s with the backhoe. It's like, we found that, but we can't find evidence of Bigfoot. What's going on here?
Yeah, that podcast kind of ruined Bigfoot for me even more. I'm like, how can we not find Sasquatch bones, but we can find this 15,000-year-old child's bones?
Yeah. Yeah, the data points we have seem so obscure to me. That's what's so wild. I mean, every time that as I learn about archaeology, which I wouldn't have any formal training in it, so I'm learning all this stuff, and I'm always amazed at like some dudes were out digging with a backhoe and found that, and then all this academic science builds around this like one data point, and it's just astonishing. But going back to the ghost population, yeah, when I heard that, my first thing was, well, do you think people came over on boats? I actually asked him that, and he was like,
No.
I mean, a lot of times those guys aren't always real certain about stuff, but he was so certain about it. I mean, the guy's spent his career understanding this stuff, but I mean, basically, I understood him to say that we pretty much know when people developed the technology to be able to float across huge oceans. And it was like thousands and way before that. But where'd they come from? I mean, I told somebody, I was like, it may have been by accident somebody floated across the ocean on a big log.
Yeah.
Man and a woman. I mean, I don't know. You know, I mean, it's like it is such a mystery.
No, it is, and that's the fascinating thing about it, and that's why, like, I know a lot of these researchers have, up until the data they have now, like, as much confidence as possible in what they've found, but it's also like the randomness of them finding that child. Like, what's the stat and the statistic of that actually happening? Like, you're just digging one hole, doing whatever kind of excavation you're doing, and you find that one thing.
Oh,
it's like, and you made a good point about like tilling up like the whole earth and like trying to like what you could find, but it's like it's not possible.
Yeah,
and you know who knows
what's and how many? If you know backhoe operators, how many backhoe operators could see a stone point from the cab?
Exactly, and stop and get out and look at it,
and not have just completely ruined it.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just like how many of those things have been ruined or not ever known. I mean, and the answer is thousands and I mean, some aren't in existence. Like the bones just were in a place where they decayed and they're just like literally no longer human bones. But certainly there are other human specimens of that age that just never were discovered by science, you know.
Well, you brought up a good point when he was talking about the dam builders and the guy found that Clovis point.
Yeah.
And you're like, I bet the dam builders appreciated that. And he was like, no, it didn't disrupt it. But, I mean, you hear about that all the time where maybe it's a farmer, maybe it's this or that, but they uncover some bones or something, and they just toss it in the river because they're like, I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah.
You know, because whatever regulations might come with it. So that's a good point because I always think about that. I'm like, man, there's probably been, like the best ones maybe even, but the best sites are probably lost due to things like that. Either people not even realizing it, or people maybe realizing it and just want nothing to do with it.
Well, it's like the boneyard guy up in Alaska that's been on Rogan that has this incredible place that's it's a gold mine.
Literally.
And who knows what's on that place. It sounds the guy possibly he embellishes it a little bit. I mean, he loves to kind of like stir the pot, but I have no doubt that it's an unreal place that for the most part has not been studied by the establishment of archaeology.
Well, and I think Rogan's talked about it because I've listened to all those episodes, which I can't remember the guy's name, but when he comes on kind of at the end of the year, last couple of years, they've done episodes. It's a small area that they're excavating. It's I think he said because only a few acres in size of like all the property the guy has.
Yeah.
So it's like who knows what else is out there.
Yeah. It's astonishing.
Yeah, I love the subject though, for real. I every time I find a stone point or a tool or a flake or anything like that, I love that stuff because we went and found a bunch of arrowheads in Mississippi this year back in January on a buddy of ours property, and I mean they're everywhere in that field. You find like a little bitty high spot in that field, the Mississippi River drainage, and I mean they're literally everywhere. Walking around, we're finding little what do they call them, like celts or whatever, like little axe heads.
Oh, okay.
Points, like big giant points, little bitty points, and everything in between. And I'm like, these guys are hunting too, like right here. And this is where we're hunting. Like I'm hunting that tree line over there, and here's this point where some dude was here, I don't know, a long time ago.
In the middle of a bean field.
Yeah, it's in the middle of a bean field now. But back then it was like, you know, who knows what it even looked like.
Yeah. What stood out to you, Andrew, in the podcast? Anything stand out to you?
The part where the guy was talking about that Clovis discovery at the dam site,
right?
And he was just saying like, "Hey, it's out there, and if you know where to look, you can find it." And I don't know, that just kind of that was really cool to me because I've spent a lot of time listening to that kind of subject, and I try to find it like every time I'm in the woods, I'm looking like if I'm in a creek, if I'm in a field or whatever, and that was just it. Kind of makes you think there's probably. I don't know, maybe not talking Clovis, but after Clovis, there's so many people around making stone points. Like, there's just no telling how many. I think it was a book one time talking about early settlers in the East, and when they started plowing up the first fields, on the edges of rivers, and they were talking about just how many, like, they didn't like the arrowheads because, like, their horses would step on them and get hurt. And they were talking about the big, giant, long, flat arrowheads skip the best on the water. And it's like nowadays you find that you like frame it, put it in your house, but they're like, oh, it's one of these things. Skip it. So it's like what's been lost.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Or what's on, I live next to a lake in Alabama, and all of our lakes are man-made, flooded, and a lot of those sites are underwater now. You know, because they flooded. You know, those the river and creek confluences, and you have a nice little high flat spot right there. There's almost always a site on it, and a lot of it's underwater now. Whether you're talking the lakes and rivers in Alabama or the southeast or even the coast, because the ocean used to be lower. So I'm like, what's under there?
Yeah, yeah. Wow. You know, to me, that there's something peculiar that stood out with the Anzic child, because they linked this Stone Age human back to Northeast Asia.
Oh,
and we've always known that. Like, we've always thought that's where Native Americans came from, but it truly wasn't until 2014 that we were able to actually say, well, modern Native Americans here, they can trace their genealogy back to there, but we didn't know exactly the sequence. So to find this 12,700-year-old human and then go, yep, they came from Northeast Asia, was like this confirmation of what we already knew. There, and this is what stood out to me, is that, so I randomly talk about this. I don't talk about this a lot. I'm in the process of writing a book. The reason I don't talk about it is because it's so far out, it's ridiculous. This book will be published in 2035. But there's this idea that this anthropologist came up with back in 1926 is when he published the paper on the what he called the circumpolar bear cult. Okay. And basically, he was studying the people in the boreal forest in the northern latitudes, you know, because, I mean, you know, the globe has similar, like Asia and North America and even Northern Europe all has similar boreal ecology, you know. And as he was studying bear ceremonialism, basically like how these ancient people interacted with bears. And I won't go into all the detail, but he found oddly peculiar, bizarre similarities in the way that all the people around the earth talked about, had stories about, here's one, this will give you one odd example. In all these indigenous stories, they talked about how bears sucked their paws in the den to get nourishment to be able to hibernate through the winter. It's just a random thing. He found that all the way around the boreal forest, that's what all the indigenous people kind of were in their lore. And basically, the circumpolar bear cult, his thing back in 1926 was that all these people were connected culturally, even though they would have never. It's like, how did the people in Northern Europe, how were they connected to people in North America? And basically, the Anzic child confirms that they actually were physically connected. So,
Right.
some of the biggest the most wild indigenous bear ceremonialism comes from northern Japan. There's these people called the Ainu, A-I-N-U, and the stuff they did with bears is just bizarre. Raising them in pens and fattening them out like cattle, and they did that in North America too. But anyway, when I heard that, like, yeah, these people in America are from Northeast Asia, I was like, I could have told you that because they all said that bears suck their thumbs in the den. You know, like you can confirm things culturally too. Anyway, just a long-winded way to.
See, I've always been fascinated, and there's only so much information out there. I've always been fascinated with their hunting style back then because, you know, he talked about, you know, that that woman had the dietary breakdown was similar to like some kind of cat.
Yeah.
Because they're eating so much, you know, large mammal meat.
Right.
And I'm so fascinated with, like, how do they hunt? And especially if there wasn't that big of a population of people, how did they keep from getting super injured and just getting killed all the time and be able to populate? Because, like, that's something that I find super fascinating. Just as a hunter, it's like, how do they bring down some of these large animals, these large mammals?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they probably had a 30-year lifespan. And I mean, the population was small. I mean, just think about they don't know, but I mean, think about 50,000 people spread across all of North America. I mean, that's like an incredibly small population of people, but enough to like keep it going if you had a 35-year lifespan, and kids were dying, and I mean, but
that, and also
incredible
he was saying that there's been no evidence found of any kind of inbreeding or anything like that.
Yeah, that was
So you're thinking
fascinating.
about if there's like these small groups of
was
individuals, for a generation, and they're traveling. At some point, you think that would happen just because of the lack of people. But like, again, they haven't found evidence of that, which is fascinating as well.
Yeah. So this is what I was going to say about the ghost population and the study on the how much these people were carnivores. It's so hard. Every time that you learn something, you learn that it's like, but some people don't buy it. Like the whole ghost population, there's a whole group of people, and I don't know how credible they are, that have that thing completely figured out, and they believe it's an error in the way that we read genetics. So like Meltzer, who and you can just like kind of trust the expert you're standing in front of. At least that they've like done their homework, and I trust what he says. He believes it. He thinks the science is legit. There's a point I'm going to make about what you just said too that I thought about saying the ghost population, it's there, but there's skeptics. Well, so there was this. So with the Anzic child, these people, modern people, the reason I emphasize it was a peer-researched academic paper in this reputable journal is that they published it and they did this deep isotope analysis, and basically they said though that they can tell what the mother was eating when it breastfed this child, and that she was a carnivore, and that her diet was most similar to the bones of a scimitar cat, which would have been killing large mammals. There's a caveat, and I didn't say it on the podcast. Those guys that wrote that paper, as I understand it, they were heavily invested in the Blitzkrieg hypothesis that man was very involved in all the Pleistocene extinctions. And basically, they used that paper to say man killed out all the big game, which is a political play of just like, it's a political environmental play about how terrible man is. And anyway, so like, actually, Meltzer said it, so I can say it. I just didn't put it on there. When I told him about that study, he was like, yeah. They think they know what that mama ate, essentially is what he
Right.
So anyway, I put it on there because it was so dang interesting.
Yeah.
And there are legitimate people that think it's credible. But anyway, it's just like when you're talking about, and I think this is what's most fascinating because I love it. I think what I find interesting in modern times is kind of our hubris of how smart we think we are.
Yeah.
And then when you really dive into stuff, you realize even in modern times we can fly to the moon. We know about the rings of Jupiter, but as Barry Lopez says in his book Arctic Dreams, we know more about the rings of Jupiter than we do narwhals. Like there's all these things that we don't really know. And when you're talking about deep human history, man, a lot of times we're just kind of guessing.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Because mystery remains in the earth. I mean, it's like we hadn't figured it all out. But that's what I like about a story like the Anzic child is just like the mystery of it.
I was fascinated by hearing the whole thing in the grand scheme of things of what made those people migrate so fast. You know what I mean? Against the odds. I mean, it was not a favorable environment to be able to migrate across this vast amount of land. And just, it didn't seem like there was a shortage of food. Didn't seem like there was a shortage of places to live. What caused them to move across the country so fast?
Yeah.
And like Dr. Meltzer said, he's like, our job as archaeologists is to make huge assumptions on very little evidence, and it kind of blows your mind to think about, but it happened. You know what I mean? We have evidence that there were people all over at this point in time, and I find the idea of humans moving down the Pacific coast very interesting in during the Ice Age there. That was,
yeah.
I mean, just try to imagine that.
Yeah, I said on that podcast, and obviously I said it kind of tongue in cheek in a way, but I said, what if there's a technology one day in the bones of humans that will tell you their motivation?
Yeah.
Because if you would have said 100 years ago that you could, in someone's bones,
Yep.
be able to know what their mother ate when you were breastfed, I mean, it's like you would have been like, that's witchcraft. And then who knows? The thoughts of our mind, stress can cause you to die. Happiness can cause you to overcome actual physical ailments and live longer. Maybe that's inscribed in our bones.
Yeah.
And one day they'll be able to be like, it looks like Andrew's DNA looks like he had a bump of stress in 2017 when he started.
2 years.
He had a bump of stress when Jacob went to Iowa that time.
They'll be like, it appears as if a business partner went on a very uncalled for absence. Looks like it happened in the fall.
Oh, man. On the migration thing, too, by the way, something my brain just kind of ties it back to that they think that the people moved across this big giant landscape in like relatively a short amount of time, talking Alaska to the southern tip of South America. And you just think about those people migrating and moving. It's not the same people, that walk from Alaska, but through generations, they were in, rainforests, deserts, prairies, Rocky Mountains, and it's just all the different places. It's like, imagine if you were one of those people that was nomadic and migratory, and you went from like Montana to Mexico or something in your lifetime. Just the amount of change in the animals that you'd be hunting, the habitat that you'd be living in, the scarcity of resources between, if you're in the Pacific Northwest versus the desert.
Right.
I don't know. That's fascinating to me.
Do they have any idea of how many generations it took for them to get from Alaska to South America?
I asked Meltzer, and we just kind of passed over it real quick, but I initially said, did they do that in like a couple of generations? And he said, no, not a couple. And I said, 5,000 years? And he's like, no, way faster than that. I mean, you get I got the impression it was a couple hundred years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, too, is like, that's not a long amount of time, really.
No.
Especially when you don't know where you're going.
You don't know where you're
what I
going,
mean?
and you don't have like a headlamp or anything like that.
Is there a lot of evidence stacked on like the Panama Canal there? Because I mean, so many people, like everybody would have funneled like
If you were
right
deer
through.
hunting, that's where you put your stand.
If you were man hunting, Pleistocene man hunting.
Imagine when they were cutting the Panama Canal and anything they might have found that they just like disregarded
Yeah.
because of all that excavation.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, that's a great point, Bear. Like,
but in the tropics, everything just
disintegrates.
bio-recycles so quickly. The only thing that would have been left would have been lithic points, stone points.
Yeah.
But I thought it was fascinating when he said that in Europe we have just copious amounts of, maybe not copious, but like there's lots of Ice Age human remains, animal remains. In Metin Aaron, a former podcast guy, he said that they have all kind of human mastodon kill evidence in Europe, but here we have very little. And basically Meltzer said, well, it's because there were so many people there.
Right.
That, like Europe there were way more people there than there were here. But I mean, it's just, I don't know what it is. I mean, we all know what it is because we all feel it, like people that are connected to the land, especially through hunting. When you think about North America, from Alaska to Florida, from northern Canada down into, old Mexico, there being like 5,000 people on the continent. I mean, it's just like, it's just hard to fathom.
Yeah.
Hard to fathom. But
and what everything even looked like too, because one thing he said that kind of caught me off guard was that those artifacts are below like 9 meters of dirt.
yeah,
I'm like, oh my gosh,
we're not going to be finding many of these.
Yeah.
no, I mean that's insane.
Talking about people navigating the landscape. This book, I'm reading I read a book called Arctic Dreams. It's about the Arctic, and he was talking about how when the Westerners came to the Arctic and engaged with what they now call Inuits. At the time, they called them Eskimos. Still, some people call them Eskimos. He called them Eskimos in the book. He said that the Westerners felt like the Inuits didn't have a good sense of direction, because when they would talk to them, they would be like, "Hey, how do you get from here to here?" And the language differences, like they could interpret what was being said, but the way they thought about the landscape was so vastly different than the Europeans that they had a hard time communicating. But in the book, he shows a modern map of this intricate peninsula that's surrounded by the ocean. And it looks like Southeast Alaska or something, with like just unreal coastline. And they showed a real map of this peninsula. And then they show a map of a hand-drawn by memory map drawn by an Inuit man sometime in the 1800s, when a guy just said, "Hey, draw me a map of," and this is like a 1,500-mile long area. And the accuracy of the hand-drawn map by memory was unreal. I mean, it looked almost the same. I mean, and my point is, when people are turned loose on the land, we've lost so much. I mean, the human ability to navigate land, to find food, to understand natural systems, I mean, it's just unreal. But just thinking about, it'd been interesting if you could have asked these people generations later who were in South America, draw a map of this continent from the stories of where you came from. I bet they could draw a pretty decent. Yeah. I bet they would draw a big landmass that got real skinny and then open back up. I mean, because that's what they would have known. That they would have known there's an ocean over there and an ocean over here. And anyway, just all that's so fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I was actually talking to some guys about this previously, that with the implementation of newer technology in the last, say, 15, 20 years, truly how bad, not everybody, but a lot of people's memory is, because you don't have to remember as much as previously. And just when I'm like growing up and remember phone numbers. Okay?
Yeah.
Now it's like all on your phone, and like you just don't even think about it. You just click it and go to their name, their contact. And it's like, imagine like everything was by memory. And it's like, it's something that like, it's hard to like even think about of how good probably their memory had to be in order to not only navigate, but also communicate with younger generations of where they've been, where they're going, and things around them. Because it was all memory. They didn't have any other way to, document it.
I think that's probably a modern person's biggest Achilles heel. What if all the contacts in your phone got erased? It's like, how would you call your wife?
You'd be in trouble.
Yeah, it's like, we don't remember. That's a good example.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, we've been going for an hour and 22 minutes. Any closing thoughts? I really appreciate you guys coming up here.
Nothing. I mean, I don't really have any other than it's great to kind of see the studio now and spend some time with you guys. Because I mean, the thing is, it's awesome when we get to see each other maybe once a year or something like that, but also be able to spend some time together and get everybody's different thoughts on like topics that we've discussed. I love this. The reason why I love podcasting is because it gives you a chance to express this that you might not be able to do in other settings and be able to document. So no, we would just appreciate it, Clay.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add to that. I appreciate it. It's really cool to be here.
Say something maybe a little more.
Church it up a little bit.
Yeah, church it up a little bit. I don't know. I'm just happy to be here, man.
No, thank you guys for coming. Southern Outdoorsman podcast. We're on episode 692 out here.
Yep.
So these guys have been pounding it out.
Yep. We got a bunch more to do this week too.
Yeah.
That's the one thing.
Where's your tour going this week?
We're going to go to Missouri after this. So we'll be in Missouri for a handful of days and back to Arkansas, interviews with more guys as we're heading back south.
Okay.
And then a 2-week break, and then we're hitting the road, going up the eastern seaboard, doing it again. Yep.
Dang.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep the wild places wild, because that's where the bears live.